Hey there, everybody. Welcome to your horoscopes for the week. These are the horoscopes for the week ending June 18th. I had to look because I forgot there for a minute. That's okay. It's actually a bit of a rocky start, and we do have a full moon, a Sagittarian full moon actually this week. I don't know about you guys, but those moons can be a little bit crazy, if you know what I mean, but that's okay. I think we'll all survive. Let's see how it's going to affect everybody. And we're going to go ahead and get right to it. And we're going to start with Aries. Aries, not much change in Aries. We still have Mars in Aries. We still have Jupiter in Aries. The only big change actually that's going to come up this week is the fact that the two planets are sort of moving out of conjunction with each other as Mars sort of continues to move on. And we're looking at him continuing to be in Aries for the rest of the week, just not necessarily in such a tight conjunction with Jupiter. Does that really matter though? No, not really. When planets are in conjunction with each other, they do tend to help each other a lot, but they're still both influencing the same sign. So they're still continuing to help each other in some ways. The biggest difference is that when they move away from each other, you have more of a tendency to have different aspects coming in instead of the two planets creating the same aspect, if that makes any sense at all. So in any case, focus is still on finances, and Jupiter's continued sextile with the sun also helps you to kind of sort of boost that energy into that financial growth energy into your career, because of course that's where the money's going to come from, right? I mean, usually that's where the money comes from, unless you have some sort of well full of money that nobody knows about that you're digging in, and that would be really cool actually to have that, but I don't think it actually exists. So we got a lot of good energy focus on finances, but I also what I am also picking up for you guys is because of the fact that Mars has been such an influence in your sign, and I've noticed with a few of the Arians that I know tend to be really highly energetic right now because of it. I mean, it is your ruling planet. It is the planet of energy, and in some cases aggression and ambition, and you know, all that stuff. That's great, but self-care is still really, really important. Just because you're a ram doesn't mean that you don't need self-care. And every Aries I've ever known is extremely energetic anyways, at least in my view they are. My brother in particular is just constant movement all the time. Even when he's resting, he's moving in some way. So um and I feel like the one of the biggest things or the biggest challenges for most Aries is relaxation, is actually not moving at all and relaxing, not necessarily sleeping, just relaxation. And I find actually that most Aries don't relax unless they're sleeping. So this week would be a really good opportunity to take some breaks and all that energetic focus. I mean, you guys are badass, you're doing wonderful things, but if you don't take care of yourself and you don't replenish your energy, Aries or not, there's not a well full of energy for you guys to pull from either. So it's really important to make sure that you set that up for yourself at various different times during this week, especially around the full moon, which is actually coming in on Monday and Tuesday. This is a moon that's actually going to stick around there for a bit. And because it's a Sagittarius moon, it's another fire moon, that could be a real energy drainer also for you guys. So you guys have a great week with that. And we're going to move on to Taurus. That stupid moon right at the beginning of the week, the moon in Scorpio, as a matter of fact, as it's moving out of Scorpio right there on Sunday, moving into opposition with Mercury and with Venus, is going to create a little bit of a challenge for you guys. Now, Mercury is very much focused on career and long-term career goals. And Venus is also focused on long-term goals, be they career or personal. And Venus being your ruling planet, this is a tremendous energy for you guys in terms of coming up with some really creative ideas in terms of your long-term goals. But when that moon moves into opposition of all that, and the moon's focus is specifically on the mind, on how you think, you really want to be careful and you really want to be aware of how your mind has a tendency to work against you and not for you. This is actually a problem that everybody has. You start getting thinking, and the stinking thinking is actually what I call it. And that stinking thinking really just, it will either confuse you or it will scare you back into your comfort zone. And being a fixed sign, Taurus being a fixed sign, that comfort zone thing is a big deal. Okay. It is actually, for most fixed signs like to stay within their comfort zone, and they really have to push themselves to kind of get out of it. Because of course you're not going to develop if you're sitting inside your comfort zone, right? It just doesn't work. So this is going to create a challenge right at the beginning of the week, but the good news is that it moves on. And by Monday, even though we're looking at a full moon in Sagittarius, Monday into Tuesday, it's not directly affecting what you're doing, which is really what matters, right, in the long run. Also, we do have a trine between Mercury and Pluto this week, actually, into most of the week. I think by the end of the week, he's kind of moved on. Nope, he's still there by the end of the week. So a trine is actually a really helpful aspect that brings two planets together for a reason, right? To help you out. And with Pluto's influence being in family, in those you love, it's really important, actually, in terms of long-term goals, to incorporate that family time into what you're doing. We get so stuck on career, money, because that's what we need to do to survive. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of people that have a lot of bad things to say about money. Truth is, money is energy, just like anything else. The more energy you put into it, the more it works for or against you, depending on the energy that you put into it. So this week, this trine is really kind of coming in and saying, hey, don't forget to add some fun time. Don't forget to add some time with the people that you love, because those people, they're the reason why you do this, right? I mean, they're part of the reason why you're working so hard. And it's not just a good idea for them, it's a really good idea for you as well, because taking this time really kind of grounds you, and it centers you, and it brings you back to being able to focus on your career goals with a fresh focus. So that is what I have for you guys. Have a great week with that. And we're going to move on to Gemini. We are almost out of Gemini. Actually, this is our very last week, full week of Gemini, and a few days into, pardon me, next week, we're going to be out of Gemini. Actually, next week is not only Cancer season, but it is also the first day of summer. And of course, that is the solstice is going to happen, and we all change and everything gets really, really hot, at least where I live, which I'm not looking forward to. But that's besides the point. This week, still focused on career, although in some cases with the sun's sextile, well, first of all, let's just back up here a little bit, because we do have a Sagittarius full moon on Monday and Tuesday, and of course that is going to affect you with the sun in opposition of the moon, the sun being in Gemini. So what does actually that full moon mean on the other side of it? With Saturn being Saturn, no, with Sagittarius being your opposition sign. And a lot of times I feel like, because the sun is, it represents logic and the moon represents emotions, and this creates this little chaos where your logic and emotion don't really want to work together. They're kind of fighting back and forth with each other. This is the Gemini way. Actually, this is the way of any intellectual sign. The intellect has to win because the emotions are just going to make a mess out of it. See your point? Being an Aquarius, see the point? Doesn't always work out. Also, being an Aquarius, I know this. Okay. So you may find in those couple of days where you're in situations where it feels like you are struggling, trying to make a decision based on logic or based on emotion. These two things just aren't working together. And so it creates a little bit of a challenge and a lot of do going on up here too, which of course you want to try and eliminate as much as possible, especially because the moon's focus is on the mind. So it's going to amp up your already crazy thinking process where there's like 20 different pages open and you don't know where the music is coming from. Yeah, it's going to make that a little bit worse. So being aware of that actually helps you to be able to have a little bit more control over that. And it also helps you to have the ability to put a damper on it. Okay, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. I'm not going to overthink myself to death about this situation. I'm going to focus my energy on something else, clear my mind, come back to it when my mind is a little bit calmer. If you do that, you have more success actually finding a solution, if a solution there is. Because of course, we know that not every problem has a solution. As you move out of that, things start to calm down, and the sun's sextile continued, I should say, continued sextile. Well, it moves into a sextile with the moon at the end of the week, which is a much nicer aspect, actually. And when you're talking about, actually, I'm sorry, this is not a sextile, it's a trine. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but a trine is a very helpful aspect. In terms of what does that mean for you, the moon's placement now is on your day-to-day activities. It's on your schedule. Now, a Gemini schedule, I don't think I've ever met a Gemini that has a very cut and dry, this is what we do every, on schedule. Actually, it has to be very flexible in order for things to bounce out and bounce in to the schedule willy-nilly. And that's okay, because you guys can handle that. It's just sort of how you live. When the moon moves into that trine with the sun, what happens is, in terms of your career goals, your schedule opens up a little bit so that you can actually look at the time that you need in order to be able to accomplish the goals that you have currently going on right now. So you go from like this, it's very strange. You start off the week in this crazy place where nothing is working, and then you end the week where everything just sort of smooths itself out. And really, I mean, that's everybody's ultimate goal, right? So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates, and we are going to move on to Cancer. We still have Ceres influencing Cancer this week, and the dark moon has moved out into Gemini, went retrograde. It'll be back. Don't worry, she won't be gone for long. But we do still have Ceres influence, and Ceres, very maternal influence, is actually very important right now in terms of what's going on with Cancers, especially with your focus being very much in the middle of your career goals and your support at the same time, your support system, those people that support you, so to speak. Now, in terms of your career goals, I think it's very important for most Cancers to have as much support as they possibly can. Being a more emotional sign, Cancers do have a tendency to need a little bit more support than maybe some of the other signs on the zodiac. And it can be a little bit difficult sometimes when it seems like your support system isn't quite there. And when it seems like your support system isn't quite there, your career goals look pretty bleak at that point if you don't have the support that you need. However, there's always a way around it. And I think that that really is the big lesson or the big thing for you guys this week in particular. I have a Cancer child. He is actually a super crab. He's got 5 planets in Cancer and born on a new moon. So, of course, the sun and the moon are in perfect conjunction, actually, in the exact same place the moment that he was born. And having this Cancer child has taught me a lot about what he is willing to do depending on what he has available. So, in terms of discussion of career, we've had lots of discussions where you could do this or you could do that. And then it's a question of, yes, but do I have somebody to take me there? Do I have a means of being able to continue doing that job? What kind of things do I need to do that job, so to speak? And a lot of times he does have a tendency to come up with excuses of why he can't do that, when the issue is not so much that he can't, but that he really doesn't want to. Recently, moving into a career that was he chose, but what became available, there was a lot of arguments about that too. Maybe I can't do this, maybe I won't be able to do that, blah 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 blah. And once he settled in, it sort of smoothed out. And the big thing is that, of course, he had a lot of support from both of his parents and, you know, a lot of people around him to pursue this goal. But it does, and so therefore it is much easier to embrace this goal. But recently we have started getting into these issues where he doesn't quite have so much support. I'm not available, his father is not available, brothers aren't available, you know, what have you. And so what we're looking at is working through moving from just saying, well, I give up because nobody's here to help me, so why bother, to, okay, nobody's here to help me, what is my backup plan? And he is just knocking that out of the park and doing such a great job. And it is very much a complete change from a Cancer who just was confused and had too many options and didn't know what to do about these options, to a Cancer that has a clear plan, knows exactly what he's doing, and has taken all of these, you know, so-called options out to make it a lot easier for him. And I think emotionally, pardon me, emotionally, this is really important for most Cancers, because when you have too many options, you get scared. And when you get scared, you're less likely to actually move forward. You're less likely to actually do anything that is going to promote your growth, because you have no idea what's going to happen. And the truth is, none of us know what's going to happen. So we just have to move forward anyways and kind of figure out what's going to happen, right? But it's that fear, and moving past that fear, whether you have support or not, is really what it's all about for you guys this week. Because the truth is, we all have support systems. I can't say we all do, okay? But for those of us that have support systems, there's always going to be that time where your support system is just not there. They can't be there for whatever reason. And so you don't want to drop the ball and not do it just because you don't have a support system. Sometimes you have to be your own support system, because really, in the long run, that's the only way that things are going to get done. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope that helps. And we're going to move on to Leo. No planet influences or any influences of the sort in Leo, which is, it can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. I think in some cases it's actually a better thing. Still focus on that internal closet, those very deep emotional triggers, and trigger being the word, the operative word here. And the world is full of triggers. Wherever you go, you're going to be triggered about something, you know, and it's not always a trigger of deep emotional traumas. Sometimes it's a trigger of less deep emotional traumas. You could be triggered about something that happened yesterday, that really is, not as big of a deal. But triggers are really difficult because a lot of the time what happens is we are in a situation where we are triggered, and then there's an emotional response to that trigger. And it is that few seconds in between the trigger and the emotional response that is really the most important part of the trigger process. It's literally taking those few seconds to make a choice. Do I allow the emotional reaction to the trigger, or do I stop myself, say, and tell myself I'm being triggered and not allow the emotional response to the trigger? The truth of the matter is, when it comes to triggers, when it comes to arguments, when it comes to debates, right? Those few seconds are so important to the whole situation as a whole, in terms of how you handle the situation, how you respond to the situation, and how you approach the situation. And it, depending on what situation you're in that you're being triggered in, can also really have an influence on the relationships around you as a whole. So it's really important this week, I feel, for you guys to really pay attention to your triggers as and when they come up, and learn how your triggers work, in terms of how quickly you have that emotional reaction, how many seconds between the trigger and the emotional reaction you as an individual have, and what you choose to do with that emotional reaction. That is really the most important part of the whole lesson. The more you can get ahead of those emotional reactions, the easier it is for you to work through the trigger, and of course, not allow the trigger to control the situation that you're currently in, because it may be a situation that has nothing to do with the trigger, and then it winds up a little bit embarrassing. So of course, we want to avoid that. So that's what I have for you guys this week. And then we're going to move on to Virgo. It continues to be all about you, Virgos. This week, of course, the best place to be for Virgos. I mean, come on. I've met some of the most wonderful, nicest Virgos you can possibly meet. I've met some of the worst narcissistic bastard Virgos. Let me tell you. Whew, I love Virgos, but I don't like those kind of Virgos. I'm gonna have to say. So we're not gonna talk about those Virgos. But this week, really, in terms of it being all about you, we've talked about self-care, we've talked about goal setting, and we've talked about making sure that your goals are precisely what you need them to be and not what others need to be. Now, let's talk about fun. Let's talk about being a Virgo and just having fun. I have a friend client actually who told me at the beginning of the year that she saw 3 words that changed her life and set the pace for um, the next few years, or for her year. This is what she named her year. And those 3 words were work, rest, and play. And I really feel um, that most of us are really good at the work part, we're really good at the rest part, but we forget the play part, and we forget how important it really is to play. And so this week for you guys, that is what it's all about. It's about making sure that you're not taking life too seriously. And I know a lot of Virgos who are just so meticulous about how things are done that they do have the danger of taking life too seriously. And the truth is that if you do that, you're missing the whole point of living in the first place, which is also to have fun. In terms of human evolution and spirituality, making money is not important to those aspects of life. It's important to now, because if we don't make money, well, obviously we don't have anywhere to live, and that's kind of not fun, right? or we don't eat, which is also kind of not fun. But in terms of spirituality, it's about growth, and play is such a huge part of growth, and eliminating that out of your life really is sad. We'll just say it that way. It really is sad for the individual, because over time, you start to feel like you're stuck in your own seriousness. You get stuck in what it is that you're doing. And all of a sudden, these goals that you set for yourself become a burden, and they become a curse. And then you may just say, to hell with it, and not do it. And that would just be really sad too. So this week, it's all about playing. It's all about having a good time. It's all about doing exactly what you need to do in order to keep your energy level up here where it belongs. Because when your energy level is up here, you stand a better chance of success. So that's what I have for you guys this week. And I'm going to move on to Libra. We're still a little bit focused on the past and things that have happened in the past this week for you guys. And I have to say that being focused on the past, it really is a double-edged sword, because too many times we look back on our glory days, okay, for lack of a better way of saying it. We look back on our glory days and pine for the person that we were instead of appreciating the person that we are today. Or we spend too much time focused on mistakes that we made in the past and beating ourselves up over not being perfect. And I think perfection is really a big word for Libras, more so, I think, than any other sign. Libras are so much about perfection and being perfect, and that does not exist in humanity at all. In fact, once we become perfect humans, there's no reason for us to be here anymore. So this week for you guys, it really is about taking the time to look back on those mistakes, realizing that you're not perfect, and accepting that you're not perfect, forgiving yourself. Actually, I don't even think you need forgiveness for not being perfect. Just accept the fact that you're not perfect and that you don't make perfect decisions all the time, and do better next time, because that is what evolution really is all about. So, by doing this, you also spend less time worrying about making things perfect in the future and just worrying about doing the best that you can. And when a Libra sets out to do the best that they can, they do better than most. I will say that. So that's what I have for you guys this week. And we're going to move on to Scorpio. We do have the moon. We're going to kick off the week with the moon in Scorpio, very end of Scorpio. So in terms of Sunday, it's the moon is gone out of your sign by the end of the day. Of course, as it's leaving in opposition with Venus and with Mars, this is a little bit of a challenge, especially in terms of your own long-term goals. With the moon's emotional center being in your mind and how you think about things, and with you being an emotional sign to boot, it may indicate that you are spending too much time emotionally overthinking your next steps, emotionally overthinking what you need to do from here on out. And that is not going to help you make any decisions. In fact, it is really going to hinder your progress completely, as this opposition actually is a T-square when you bring Saturn into the mix. Saturn being retrograde at this time, and Saturn's focus being on your day-to-day duties. You may also find that part of this emotional turmoil that's going on in your mind is reflected into your day-to-day activity. So it just feels like the whole day, all the plans that you've made today are all screwed up and rearranged by yourself, by other people, by various different circumstances that are happening. Annoying. Annoying is the word that we're looking for here. Not the worst thing in the world, just annoying. As we move on from Sunday into Monday, we do have a full moon, Sagittarius full moon. So the moon is out of your sign. It's not over influencing your sign. And but still focus is on the mind. Focus is on how you think about things. And when your focus is on how you think about things and you start off the week with this horrendous emotional thought process turmoil, this is actually teaching you a better way of dealing with this when you think about it. It's bringing the problem to the surface so that you can identify it and then spend the rest of the week going, okay, well, I don't have to have an emotional thought reaction every time something like this comes up, right? So it does make it a little bit better for you guys. In terms of emotional thought process, very, very, very important to remember that emotional thought process and logical thought process are two different things. An emotional thought process does get confused very quickly. So make sure that you're using logical thought process more than you're using emotional thought process, and it'll definitely help make those decisions. So that's what I have for you guys. Moving on to Sagittarius, we have a Sagittarius full moon. Here we go. Sagittarius full moon, and focus it on Monday and Tuesday, Monday into Tuesday. We're going to have this full moon, but also the moon comes into a trine at this time with Jupiter and Mars in Aries. And this is actually a very powerful influence with your focus on the home and the trine's focus on finances. This is really about getting together the finances to make the changes that you need to make in your home. And the moon's influence actually becomes a very powerful light the fire in that direction with ideas on how to do that, or ideas on where to maybe cut the expenses a little bit so that you can sort of broaden out that space and get those things that you need and or want in your home. Sometimes it's okay to just get something because you want it. I mean, everybody should, at least once, or twice, or as often as possible. Of course, it's not okay to spend all your money on that and not take care of your responsibilities. So when you find a balance in that, it starts to work for you. As we move into Tuesday, we don't have that trine anymore. We just have the full moon. And we also are moving into, instead of being a trine with Jupiter and Mars, we're in a square with Jupiter and Mars. And this is a challenge and not necessarily helpful. So we have this sort of high energy Monday with the full moon. And then we come into Tuesday with a difficulty during the full moon. And it's specifically, you may find on Monday, I know exactly where I have some extra money coming in to buy this stuff. And then on Tuesday, it looks like you forgot that you had like 3 other bills that you needed to pay. And now that money is gone, kind of a thing. Very frustrating. But we're also looking at this being very emotion in extremes. Emotional yay, emotional kind of a thing, very extreme. And I think that's really what the lesson is all about here in terms of the full moon. Those extremes, and this is very much a fire sign trait, and very much in many cases a Sagittarian trait. Those extremes, going from one side of that teeter-totter to the other, it's exhausting. Okay. And it also promotes frustration. It also just makes things that much more difficult. If you can put your emotions more towards the center of the teeter-totter, now you're like, oh, that looks nice. Oh, that's upsetting because, I thought I had that money and I didn't. And it becomes less energy aggressive, I guess, really is the big word that we want to use here. Especially with Mars being a part of this aspect. Mars is already aggressive as it is, so you really don't want to add any more aggressive energy to that. As the moon moves on things quiet down and you're back to just focusing on the home in terms of organization, in terms of whatever it is that you need to do, in terms of whatever it is that you need to do to get your home feng shui, to get things flowing the way you need them to flow, kind of a thing. So that's what I have for you guys. And we're going to move on to Capricorn. The moon moves into Capricorn on Wednesday and Thursday, moving into conjunction with Pluto. So we have Pluto is actually in a trine, which of course the moon is going to move into on Thursday, as a matter of fact, in a trine with Mercury and with Venus. And this is actually a very helpful aspect. There's not a whole, actually, there's not a whole lot, I should say. There isn't any negative aspects with Pluto right now. He is actually lining up with planets in very helpful ways currently. Specifically, with this trine, this is all about your long-term goals, and family is very much a part of these long-term goals, because that is, of course, the focus right now. Is the focus is on those you love. Specifically, I think this is a beautiful place for Capricorns to be coming up with plans or long-term goals that you incorporate those you love into. And on Thursday, when the moon is in your sign, it sort of gives you a very deep emotional reason why you need to incorporate this time with those that you love currently at this time. To be honest, a lot of times Capricorn spends so much time focused on money, making money, managing money, doing whatever. I mean, Capricorn is very much a money sign. Okay. I mean, they are the rock stars at making money. And of course they do this because it is taking care of the ones that they love. And that's part of, why they're so drawn to make that money. But I also feel sometimes that they get so involved in making money that it's hard for them to remember to focus on the people around them, their families, their children, their spouses, their parents, their siblings, what have you, right? So this is really a time to take a step back and remember that making money is important, but making memories is even more important. And I feel that this really is what this trine is all about, is reminding you that memories in some cases are more valuable than money. Spending time with those you love is sometimes much more valuable than making money. You can always make money, but you can't always get time back. And that's really a big thing for you guys. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates. And moving on to Aquarius, the moon comes into Aquarius Friday and Saturday. We will end with the moon in there in conjunction with Saturn. Saturn is currently retrograde right now, and currently in a trine with the sun. And this is actually a really good aspect. Of course, it is also squared with Mercury, but we're gonna take the good news first and then leave the bad news for later. How about that? Saturn's trine with the sun actually is very helpful, specifically when your focus is on your day-to-day activities, your schedule. The trine with the sun is all about your career. This opens up lots and lots of time for your career goals, which is really important. Now, I think it's even more important for Aquarians to have goals, specific goals, than most other signs, because Aquarians are so scattered all over the place. I mean, I am an Aquarian, I understand. We're in like 20 different places at once in our brains at all times. And it's that scatteredness that really counts. It works against you. It really does. I mean, I've been in this business for over 10 years, and I don't feel that I am as far along as I should be, because this is a good idea over here and that's a good idea over here, and nothing ever really gets done. So this aspect is actually going to be really helpful to keep you focused on those goals and hopefully to help you get things accomplished, which is really important. Now that square with Mercury also influencing your career and long-term career goals. And Mercury is not retrograde anymore. We are officially out of the shadow period. Mercury is moving forward, which is really good. But of course, a square is a challenge. So, and I take that being an Aquarian because we're also known for talking, for being big talkers. Talk, 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 talk. I take this as stop talking and start doing. The more you talk about it, it's actually going to work against you. And I've really been seeing this actually in the last few years. The more I talk about it, the less I actually do about it. This is not about talking. This is about doing, guys. So whatever those goals are, it's time to stop talking about it and it's time to just get it done. Put it into your schedule. Even things like recording and such, I put on my schedule. That way, when somebody calls me to do a reading, when somebody asks me, can you do something for me? I look at my schedule first. If it says I'm recording that day, I don't do it, right? But if I don't put it in my schedule, I completely forget. And then, I wind up having to rearrange things. And it really just is a problem. I mean, it's very frustrating for me, and I'm sure it's very frustrating for all of you guys. So that is what I have for you guys. Good luck with that. And finally, Pisces, we are very much focused on relationships in Pisces. Neptune is still in Pisces. Neptune's square with the sun this week is going to present a little bit of a challenge, specifically in terms of a divide, or almost, I should say, not so much of a divide, but it's like being put in the position to feel like you have to choose between your relationships, the people around you and what they want, and your career goals. And that's a very difficult place to be in, especially if it's your children, your spouse, things like that. It's difficult if it's anybody. However, the helpful thing is a grand sextile between Neptune, of course, in your sign, Mercury in Gemini, and Pluto in Capricorn. Now, a grand sextile is a very, very helpful aspect that brings the planets together specifically. And Pluto's focus is very much on those that you love, and Mercury's focus is very much on your long-term goals. Now, funny thing, but this is exactly what we're talking about in this opposition: the people that you love and your career, right? Your legacy. How are you going to make money in this lifetime, kind of a thing? You have to look at it in this way. First of all, everybody's going to have their opinions about what you should do. So for instance, I'm thinking of my niece here, who's a Pisces in her early 20s. If she came up to me and said, Auntie, I'm going to start doing Lyft, I would have something to say about that. Honestly, I've done Lyft before. It's fine. It's not safe. It's not safe for my little niece. Okay. Maybe safe for my son. Yes, that's a double standard. Okay. But, at the same time, Lyft drivers, male Lyft drivers, have been overtaken by their passengers to try and steal their car, right? I don't want to see my niece in that situation. I would have something to say about that. Do I have something to say about it because of personal gain? No, it's clearly her safety, but she's also an adult and can make her own decisions, right? Now, regardless of why I'm saying this to her, she still has the right to say, well, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. And that's really what it's all about for you guys. If you're asking other people what you should do, expect them to not all jump on the bandwagon and say, oh yeah, that's a brilliant idea, you should go do it. A lot of people are going to have something not so supportive to say about it. And especially the people that are closest to you, because they're going to be the ones that are the most affected by this. My niece doing Lyft, I am going to be very affected by this. If something happens to her, I will emotionally be affected by this, right? So my fear is what's talking. And this is what's happening with you guys and your people around you. Their fear is talking. And because their fear is talking, it may seem like they're not being supportive. If you need support, gather it from others, get lots of different opinions, or scratch the opinions all together and just focus on what you need to do to make sure that you achieve those goals. The truth of the matter is that you're the one that's doing all the work anyway. So if you're the one that's doing all the work anyway, why does anybody have anything to say about it? You really got to look at it in those specific terms. Unless they're helping you work on it, it really isn't their business. Okay. So that's what I have for you guys. Good luck with that. And that's it. That's all I have actually for the horoscopes this week. Thanks for watching. Please make a donation if you love your horoscopes. Please make a donation down there in the link and subscribe. Really important that you guys subscribe to the channel, because the horoscopes are not necessarily going to be posted on Facebook on a weekly basis. If you subscribe to the channel, you get them as soon as they come out, and they are scheduled to come out every Sunday at 12 a.m. Pacific time. If you subscribe, you wake up in the morning and you have your horoscopes on Sunday morning. That's it. You guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week.